He's got a Bitmoji.
I do have a Bitmoji of me.
Is it a Bmoji or is it Bitmoji?
I don't know.
I'm new to this whole thing, so I honestly don't know.
What are these young kids doing these
Why are
days?
these ripper-snappers making them Bitmojis? And actually, no, wait, I have the app right here. Oh, it's Bitmoji. You're right.
Bitmoji. Ha!
Bmoji,
I am more
emoji.
technologically inclined.
All the emojis, get them while they're hot. This is the Vince Salerno Podcast, episode 25. On today's episode, we have JJ Schindler with us talking about his new film, Arc. Also, we're discussing the first look at Josh Brolin as Cable, new details on Star Wars The Last Jedi, and Disney cutting out of their deal with Netflix. So, sit back and relax because the Vince Salerno Podcast starts right now. Hey, hey, hey! Starting off with a bang. Hi, guys. Welcome to the Vince Salerno Podcast, episode 25. 25 episodes later, still doing this. Almost past a year. No, actually, yeah, we're past a year later. I started this the day the reboot of Ghostbusters came out. Not the best of days to start a new podcast, but hey, better start with something than nothing. Just really reflecting on the past year. I started this podcast as an opportunity to give myself time to talk about movies because I love talking about movies, and I used to do like special videos on specific topics. And as I got into college and started getting more into filmmaking, it just was not feasible for me to dedicate time to one video at a time unless it was like a movie review or something. And once I got into podcasting, I realized I had the chance to talk about a wide variety of things on one 45-minute to an hour-long audio recording, which is easier for me, easier to edit, and gives me and my guests more, flexibility to talk about more things. And whereas, like, if we're talking about one specific thing, we only have like a certain amount of time. This we can talk about a lot of things and go back to certain things, and it's been a lot of fun. I've had a lot of great special guests on here, one of which is back today. Back. Yeah. And I'm having fun with it. I have no intention of stopping it. And it's not the most state-of-the-art podcast, but it's definitely going to get better as time goes on. And
okay. Hey guys.
Hello. And yes, 25 episodes later, people are still popping in randomly. Anyways, let's get on with the show. Obviously, I'm your host, Vince Salerno. My guest is, it's kind of cool that you're the special guest today because you're the person who's been on the podcast the most.
Am I? Wow.
3 times. This is the 3rd time.
Times.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's JJ Schindler, guys.
It's JJ Schindler.
Yeah.
It's me. The one and only.
The one and only.
The J and the J.
JJ
the
Abrams
J. If
Schindler.
you switch it around, it's still J and J.
It's still JJ. No matter how you spin it, it's still JJ. So,
it's good to be back.
Yeah.
Good first year, first run.
Yeah.
Doing this podcasting. Hopefully the listeners are enjoying it. It seems like they are. I mean, you're up to 25. So.
Yeah. Not haven't cracked 1,000 views yet, but one day.
This one will, right?
This one will,
this
because
is the one.
This is the one, yeah.
Because you know what? I'm back.
Because JJ's back. That's the only reason why. Really quick. I know what you've been up to, and it hasn't been too long. Well, I guess it's been like 6 months since you've been back, but
yeah.
What have you been up to?
Oh, man. Lots of different stuff. I mean, we're in our last year of graduating film school, so busy with that. Working on a couple different film projects. Since then, you know this as well, but our film that we were in, which was a PSA commercial, won the Emmy for the regionals this year. And
actually, I don't think I've talked about that yet.
Yeah, so we should have a segment on that.
We should,
so, that was pretty cool, and picked up, I'm producing a new pilot, I'm producing another film, I'm still finishing up on post-production for my senior project, Arc, which I think we're going to touch on a little bit more today. Mm-hmm. So, I've been busy, but, busy's good. Idleness is the devil's workshop, so I'm going to keep out of that workshop as much as possible.
There you go. Yeah, so JJ is here as our continuation of the senior project discussions. Last week we had Miley Derwin on. 2 weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago, we had Gabe Moore. And now we got the producer of one of the senior projects, ARC, which is probably the most visually pleasing senior project of all the senior projects, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, we'll touch in on that later when we get into the topic of the week. But right now we have 5 stories we want to talk about. The top 5.
The top 5.
Always been 5. Sometimes it's 4. Sometimes it's 14.
But you know what?
In one case.
Number.
But 5, it's a round number. It's one of my favorite numbers. 5. Let's get into the top 5. Number 1. We got our first official look at Cable, played by Josh Brolin in Deadpool 2. A couple of days ago, we got our first look at Zazie Beetz, who's playing Domino in Deadpool 2, which I talked about with Miley. We talked about the controversy surrounding her character and how her look isn't exactly what comic book fans are hoping for, but it's a new interpretation of the character, which is kind of cool. However, Josh Brolin as Cable, man, if you know Cable, they just like ripped him out of the comics. They literally just like ripped a page out of a comic book, put it in a 3D printer, and then just 3D printed a new Josh Brolin, basically is what they did. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of Deadpool. I'm not a huge fan of the character. I think he's hilarious. I think the movie was pretty good. I can't say it was one of my favorite movies, but it's definitely one of the better movies of 2016, one of the more originals recently. But this character, I'm super excited for him. Still not knowing a lot, but just knowing what I know. He's from the future. He's a time traveler. He's the son of Cyclops, the guy with the laser beam eye in X-Men. He's got a big-ass gun. He's got a teddy bear. He's got the cyborg arm and the cyborg half of his face, almost like the Terminator. I don't remember where I heard this, but someone said to me, like, it's like they took every character Arnold Schwarzenegger has ever played and meshed it into one character.
Yeah.
Yeah, speaking on just Josh Brolin himself playing the character, it's kind of cool. It's a little weird considering that he's playing Thanos as well in Avengers Infinity War. But the thing is, that's a villain, and also I think Thanos is probably going to kick the can after Avengers 4. I think we're not going to see Thanos. My hope is we'll see him again, but I don't think we're going to see him continue on as a regular character. People still coming in. Still a staple of this podcast. I don't think we're going to see him continue on like, staple characters like Captain America or Iron Man, even if those guys continue. I'm not sure. We don't know who's going to live in Infinity War. Not what we're talking about, though. But, no, it's interesting that they cast Josh Brolin as Cable because initially it was like Brad Pitt was in negotiations.
Mel Gibson was in negotiations.
Mel Gibson, I would have loved to see Mel Gibson as Cable. Stephen Lang, who played the bad guy in Avatar, and is coming back, I guess, for that movie.
Yeah, he would have been good too.
He would have been great, yeah.
No, he's got a great look. I mean, I am kind of on the same boat as you as far as Deadpool, but you definitely appreciate the detail of the story and the well-structuredness of Deadpool. I think, from what I've seen of this character, he seems very highly detailed. I mean, it looks, like you said, like they pulled him, a human, real living form from as close as you could get to the comic. So they did a really good job with that. And, I think he's a good choice for the character. I guess we'll find out how well he dives into the character itself. But as far as look, I mean, he looks great. He looks like he's the part. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because I was initially going to have Preston come on here, Preston Yarger being the director of ARC. And I was really interested to get his thoughts on this. I'm sure he's loving this look. But, I know your opinion of Deadpool is also very specific. So, it works.
Yeah, it works.
It works.
You daddy love it. Enjoy it, You
love it, yeah. But no, I think Cable is going to be a great contrast to Deadpool because even though they're good friends in the comics, he doesn't really take any of this BS. He's just kind of like, stop, you dumbass.
Yeah.
So, Josh Brolin is Cable. Bring it. Can't wait for this badassery. All right, number 2. It's kind of a weird movie story, not one that I was expecting to cover, but I love it so much I want to talk about it. James Gunn revealed the music video for Guardians Inferno, the original song in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. And it is the greatest thing I've ever seen on YouTube. It is basically, it's a mocking of like Bee Gees 80s 70s type music videos where people like have little to no shirts on. The guys, at least. The girls are wearing these very skimpy revealing dresses, jumpsuits. There's robots and people with like weird eye costumes and alien costumes walking around. Nice 70s, 80s looking mustaches. David Hasselhoff, who actually sings the song in the actual movie, is in the music video, of course. It's just amazing. And despite what you thought to begin with, Chris Pratt's in it too. Spoilers. He is the robot dancing around. At the end, you reveal that it's him, and it's so funny. And it's a great promotional piece for Guardians of the Galaxy. And it just kind of shows how much fun the people have making this movie. Like, this is why I love this franchise so much, the Guardians franchise, because it feels like a fun franchise where James Gunn has really given free rein to work with the actors on crafting a really good story with great characters and awesome special effects and action scenes and set pieces. I was talking with you earlier. I've viewed movies as like a cake. Like you can put like the best frosting on the cake. You can put like really colorful sprinkles. You can put those like rainbow airhead strips on the side of the cake. You can put like all these amazing decorations on the cake to make it look amazing. But if the cake itself, the batter that you make it with, doesn't taste good, then the whole cake's just gonna suck, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
And James Gunn knows how to combine the best of both those elements by crafting a great story while adding just incredible visuals and continuing to allow the characters to have fun, or the actors, I should say, to have fun. And the fact that they were all able to get together and do this little promotional piece, as big as like Zoe Saldana and Chris Pratt and Michael Rooker are nowadays, that they were all able to come together for this music video just to promote the movie was pretty great. And it kind of goes, like I said, just goes to show how they kind of work. They're all kind of like this little mini family within, like the Guardians themselves are a family, but then outside that, there is this actual family that is the production of the making of these movies, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what did you think?
I mean, I don't really get the point of it. I thought it was really dumb, pretty stupid. I mean, I don't even... What's it for again?
Just promotion, having fun.
After the movie's done?
Yeah, it's going to be a DVD extra on the Blu-ray.
Oh, I see. I don't know. I didn't get the point, really. I kind of just thought it was a little overly saturated, overly done. Like, I love some stuff. I mean, I love Guardians franchise. Like, they were both really great films, great story, great characters, really good stuff. But I don't know. I didn't get to see the point. It really didn't hit me at all. I kind of was sitting there like, what is this? Like, but that could just be my opinion. But yeah, I was really kind of turned off by it. But I mean, if that's their way of promoting it, I guess go for it.
So it could be your opinion, but what's your actual opinion?
It could be. It is my opinion. It is my opinion. Yes.
Dang it! Thought I had him there.
No, it was interesting. I will give them that. They chose a very interesting promotional piece, and my hat off to you.
You can tell, despite JJ and I being best friends, we still have very somewhat different tastes.
Depends on what it is.
We like the same things.
Yeah.
It's just JJ doesn't like those really weird, dumb things like the music video for Guardians of the Galaxy, which is fine. You know, it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
One of these days, yeah.
We'll just go fight over it. You know,
we'll just fight over it.
Pull out the pots and pans and knives, and you know.
Yeah, exactly. The best of
Yeah.
friends are the ones that can agree to disagree. You know. So
Yeah.
that's the way we roll.
Yeah.
Moving on. Okay, number 3. This is an interesting story. Disney has cut off their deal with Netflix, meaning that all the movies that are Disney owned that are currently on Netflix are going away by 2019, I believe. So like the Marvel films, the animated movies, the original Disney movies that are on Netflix, Star Wars. They just recently added Rogue One to Netflix. All those are going to be going away by 2019 because Disney wants to start their own streaming service. That's right. Disney wants to create another Netflix in addition to the other Netflix knockoffs that we've got, like Hulu and the HBO thing and Amazon Prime and everything else. Even though I have Amazon Prime, so I'm not going to bash on Amazon Prime. Regardless, they're all kind of knockoffs of Netflix. And this is frustrating because one, my first thought was like, what's going to happen to the Marvel Netflix TV shows like Daredevil and The Punisher and Iron Fist? Well, I don't care about Iron Fist, but Jessica Jones, Luke Cage.
What did you say? What is that movie? Iron Fist?
I don't like Iron Fist. Yeah, I'm one of the
What
many.
is Iron Fist?
What is Iron Fist? You know, it's a pile of shit. That's what it is. Anyways, we're not talking about Iron Fist. We're talking about Netflix. But yeah, it's weird. You know?
Yeah, no, and it was funny. I was just talking about this the other day with some people in a business class about like how Netflix, its business model is really unique, and I was noticing how much money they've been spending on their expansion and wondering, they must have a plan in mind to counter that. I mean, they spent a lot of money on productions for their originals. They spent a lot of money on moving into LA. They spent a lot of money making these deals with Disney and all these different things.
Yeah.
And
I mean, they're in debt, aren't they?
They're in debt. I mean, and I guess there's a lot of companies that are, but they're on the top of their game. I guess that's probably the exchange right there. But
right.
Yeah, I don't really know what Disney's trying to do. I mean, Disney does have an enormous fan base, but if they're going to make something a Netflix type, streaming system for themselves, you're only going to have Disney movies doing that. And like, as much as you have a lot of fans, like that's really you're not going to bring in anything that Netflix is. If anything, I think Netflix is adding something to them. It's just another way of expanding their arm as far as their content.
Yeah.
So, I mean, maybe they have a better insight on this than my perspective as a consumer. But for me, I'm kind of like, I don't think that's going to work out as good as you think. But then they're, I guess, kind of changed their mind and then they're still making a deal. I don't know if it's a publicity thing or what's going on, but it's kind of like, it feels like they just kind of got this whole Disney thing into full swing. Like, it's just finally like have a bunch of content on there and everything. It's kind of was trickling in for a while.
Yeah.
And now I'm just like, was just noticing the other day, I'm like, oh, okay, cool. There's a lot of Disney stuff on this now. Like, it's finally kind of in its full swing.
Full swing, yeah.
And then
not even like 3 months ago, they added Moana and Rogue One and Zootopia and all these other great Disney films to Netflix. And it's like, why would you want to ruin a good thing? Or why would you want to stop a good thing? If it ain't broken, don't fix it. Stop it, JJ's phone. We're trying to talk about Netflix. Go away.
Well, it'd be interesting. I wonder if Disney sees something that this is kind of like a theory, but I wonder if Netflix is not doing very well and if they have the potential to really have a crash here, if Disney's foreseeing that and pulling out.
Yeah, I mean, they are, I think I heard they're like $20 billion in debt, which that might be an overstatement. It might be 20 million. I don't know. The M and the B tend to, words, whatever.
Even if, whichever one it is. I mean,
it's like still a lot of money.
Million,
yeah. But even so, like they just announced that they scored a deal with this comic company, which has made is responsible for comics like a lot of the Mark Millar stuff, like Kingsman, and they produced Old Man Logan, one of the best Wolverine comics, and. So yeah, they're still making deals. Obviously, they're still making productions. They're still very profitable. But yeah, that whole debt thing really makes you think, like, is that why Disney is not wanting to do business with this company? And it's like...
Yeah, because they jumped on it when they had the deal. Or they, I don't know if Disney went to Netflix or Netflix went to Disney. But
yeah.
Regardless, they obviously thought at the time that it would be beneficial for both of them. But it could be, too, that Disney just saw that, this really isn't bringing anything extra to us.
Right.
It's really just aiding Netflix at this point. And then maybe they're like, okay, well, we need to pull this deal to renegotiate something that works better for us.
Yeah.
I don't know, but it's I think they got to be careful because you've got not only people that consistent consumers of Netflix and also consistent consumers of Disney. So if you start doing too much rattle in the cage, you're going to start hitting into one of those. So
yeah, it's because it's like how much money are people willing to invest in this? Because you already have Amazon Prime, which is a decent deal. I believe it's about $100 a year, which is good for the amount of content they give you. Almost more than Netflix. Netflix is $9 a month with just the streaming. I think they dropped the whole DVD thing a while ago, maybe. Is that still going?
I think it still is, but I think the majority of their stuff is online streaming now.
Yeah, so that's still going. You can do $16 a month for the DVD things, but usually it's just streaming for $9 a month. Disney adding another thing, that'd be a little too much. Because then you also have Hulu, and they dropped their free service. They used to just have you can get an account, you can watch some shows for free, or 2 days after they premiere. Other shows, you just can't watch it all. You have to get a Hulu Prime account. Now they drop that whole thing. Now you have to pay, I don't know how much money, but you still have to pay a lot of money to stream these shows. And it's just okay, you have 3, maybe 4, maybe there's one I'm forgetting, really great streaming services.
Yeah.
How is another one going to benefit Disney if they're already being blocked out by these other ones? Disney's kind of a niche, Yeah. Everybody loves Disney, but there are people who love Disney, there are people who love Disney. Yeah. So I don't know if you're going to get a lot of... I don't think there are as many love Disney people out there that they think there are. So I don't know. Yeah. We'll see. We can talk about this all day, but
it's interesting because Disney has its brand, it's what it is what makes Disney what Disney is. Mm-hmm. And Netflix is kind of neutral in that kind of regard. Netflix is known for its streaming service, not necessarily the brand of Disney is. Mm-hmm. So if you're having that, I just don't know. I don't see the business model. I don't see the business potential. But hey, they probably know a lot more than I do. They probably have their perspective. Who knows? This might be a whole ploy to just try to help each other out. I don't know. But don't rattle my cage too much because I want to watch some stuff. So.
I want to watch more movies and TV shows. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah.
I hope something was worked out. I hope that deal with it. Yeah, like you said, they're renegotiating their deal, I guess. So I hope something works out so they don't have to do that. That would be kind of sucky if they did, but only time will tell what happens. By 2019, we will know for sure whether Disney has that streaming service or not. All right, number 4. We got a boatload of new images and details on Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi. Entertainment Weekly has a new cover out for the movie, revealing a lot of images, a lot of details. We're going to talk about the majority of them. First of which, we're talking about Rey. The basic theme and the basic theme of this movie, according to Rian Johnson, is about heroes, and that's can mean a lot of different things in the context of this film. Yeah. For Rey, it's about meeting your heroes, not necessarily getting what you want. In Luke, Luke is putting himself in self-exile after the fall of his Jedi Order, and he's kind of a lost hero, and she sort of has to restore that heroic personification that she has of him back into Luke so he can train her to be a Jedi, and he can come back and save the galaxy, all that stuff. So that's interesting, meeting because you never think about that. You always say about meeting your favorite celebrities and your heroes, people you look up to, and you never think about what if you're disappointed, what if they're not what you expect.
Yeah.
You always just sort of have this image of what you think they are, and then you meet them in real life, and maybe they're not what you'd expect, and there's always that potential for disappointment, and I don't think Rey is expecting that when meeting Luke, so that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, no, I'm excited for this movie because I think it's going to be a chance for them to kind of branch off into to new things. Obviously the first Star Wars was kind of a bridge between the old Star Wars into the new, mm-hmm. and then you had Rogue One, which was his own thing, and then now you have this. This is really where it's okay, this is where we're going to really see the thought process they've put into creating Star Wars and extending it into these new future movies. And mm-hmm. really, these characters, we've been introduced to them now. Now we can really settle in on who they are, their inner struggles and stuff. I'm really excited to see how Rey, from what I've seen, just glimpses from trailers and different things like that, the character, I'm really liking what they're doing with it. It'll be interesting to see her dynamic with Luke, like you're saying, and how that, she just seems like such a pure character that it's really going to be interesting because he was that pure character at one point, and like things that have happened to him have caused him to become this. It's really cool. I'm excited to see their dynamic, like you were saying, like meeting somebody who you have this idea in your head about, and then they may not be what you thought, but that also in turn makes him have to rise to the occasion to, to serve her and serve the, to serve the Force,
Yeah, exactly.
And, it'll be really cool. I think there's a lot of stuff in this, but not too much. Or I hope they don't go trying to add too much into it at one point. I hope they focus in on few story points to keep us flowing, but keep us really engaged. So I'm looking forward to it a lot. And cool. I mean, the images that have come out, they look really great. Really, even just from an image, I can already see the character development in a lot of these characters.
Yeah. And
the world that they're building. So I'm really excited to see what happens.
Yeah. And talking about Luke real quick, he's got an interesting role in this film, like nothing we've ever seen from him before, because, when we left him in Return of the Jedi, everything was kind of good and hopeful. He had chosen the light. He became a Jedi who's going to rebuild the Jedi Order, and now, we cut to 30 years later, and he's not here. He's lost. He's hiding. Went to Island, Ahch-To, Skelly Michael Island, to hide among the Porgs and the Jedi Nuns, or whatever. We'll get into that in a bit. But, the interesting thing that they said was that Luke is not a coward, and he has to be doing what he's doing for a reason, which is interesting because of course this is Luke Skywalker. This is like the King Arthur of this space western medieval type world that they created with Star Wars. Of course he wouldn't just be hiding for the sake of being a coward. He has to believe that what he's doing is the right thing, which makes sense with his character.
Yeah, and I think we'll get a glimpse at like more stuff that's going on that's caused this thing, because that's a huge gap to leave from when we last saw him to now. A lot of stuff happened in that. I think it's going to kind of be an unveiling too, because we still don't really know exactly where Rey's come from. We have a lot of clues, but I don't know if they'll do it in this movie, but it's going to come out here in the next couple movies. I'm sure they have planned 4 months, who she is.
Well, they've already confirmed that we will learn her parentage in the movie, but
nice.
Almost like how Darth Vader was revealed to be Luke's father in Empire Strikes Back. That's the only tidbit we got. We didn't get how he became to be the person he was, what happened to Luke around that time, why did they separate, how did they meet, as Vader and Luke where they were now. We're gonna get that answer. Who are Rey's parents? We're gonna get that answer. I think it's Luke Skywalker, but some people like to disagree. But it's good. That's good, because I don't want to get all the answers. I wanted these answers to stretch across these movies. I didn't want to get the answer that Rey was Han Solo's kid in the in the middle of Force Awakens. You got to leave some stuff up to the imagination and leave people wanting to come back for more. And they're doing a great job at distancing the answers we get across these movies. Yeah. And with Luke, another interesting tidbit, I guess part of his downfall was that he believed that Kylo Ren, aka Ben Solo, was actually the chosen one. Which is a title that was specifically given to Anakin Skywalker. He was the chosen one. And then for a while we thought that Luke was the chosen one because Anakin had fallen. But, as we saw, Anakin would still remain the chosen one because he still had light in him, and he was able to destroy the Emperor and save the galaxy alongside Luke Skywalker. And, which is interesting because, I guess the First Order was still rising up between that 30-year gap, so of course there still had to be a fight between the light and the dark. So I guess if we had established that Anakin was a chosen one, why would Luke think otherwise? But that's just, I don't know, maybe it's just he didn't really know about the chosen one thing, and he just believes that Kylo was the chosen one, and he pushed him too hard to the point where Kylo got pushed so far that he just was done and seeked a easier path, aka the dark side.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting tidbit to think about. Going back to that hero theme of the movie, another interesting way that they're going to tie that into the film is with Finn, because at this point in the saga, everybody knows about young scavenger from Jakku and the defected stormtrooper who both saved the galaxy from the First Order and destroyed the Starkiller base. And so Finn's a hero now among the Resistance and among just common folk around the galaxy. But yet he still wants to run from the fight, apparently. He still has that desire from the first film to get away, to start a new life, to just stop fighting. Which is interesting because, you know, he stood his ground against Kylo Ren. He is a hero now, and I don't know. I guess it's. I mean, I don't want to say I don't like it, but I think it's interesting that he wants to keep running.
Right.
And then we introduce this new character, Rose, played by a new actress, Kelly Marie Tran. She is a nobody, basically. She's just like a mechanic. One of those like background people you see in Star Wars that you don't really think much about. They're actually putting one of those characters into the forefront of this movie, and she kind of looks up to Finn as a hero. And seeing that persuades him to stay with the Resistance and help fight the fight. How willing as he is throughout the movie, we don't know for sure. No. But that's an interesting dynamic with Finn and Rose. And I think that helps Finn sort of... He has an interesting arc going from trying to find his place in the universe, I think. So it's really setting up to be like the new Han Solo, I think, of this galaxy, this franchise, I think.
Yeah.
He's not a smuggler per se like Han Solo, but he's kind of that Han Solo type of character, you know?
Yeah.
So that'll be really cool to see for Finn. He's one of my favorite characters from the new trilogy, so I can't wait to see more of him.
Yeah.
The Porgs. Let's talk about the Porgs. I don't know if you've seen these things, but
I haven't.
It's like a cross between a puffin, a penguin, a sea otter, and a dog.
And a guinea pig?
A guinea pig, maybe,
like
yeah.
A guinea pig when I look at it.
It's just, oh my gosh, it's so adorable. I texted this image to my sister because she loves penguins, and I'm just like, look at this, and she's like, oh my gosh, it's so ugly, it's adorable.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, I trust them with the characters that they're creating. Looking at it, it looks really cheesy and dumb, but I hope that they tie.
I mean, it is a practical effect, so that's great. I love practical
cool.
effects.
That is really
and
cool.
They're not like these things are going to be popping around like minions. They're restricted to Luke's island. These are like some of the life
forms
the life forms, nature
Gotcha.
creatures on the island that he's in. So he's not a completely alone. You know, he has animal friends, which is, I guess, his thing in the Force canon, whatever. But they're so cute. I cannot wait. It's like, we haven't heard a thing about BB-8, and that's because of these freaking Porgs. That's funny. I love that. Okay, here's something interesting. So these are the space nuns that are also on Ahch-To, the island that Luke's on, and they are nuns they're like the nuns of the Force, you know? They're religious caretakers of this island, which is the island of the first Jedi temple. So they're attending to this castle. It's almost like a oh man, I'm trying to think of the name for it. Like pilgrimages.
Yeah.
It's almost like, you have people that stay at those pilgrimages and tend to them and keep them up to date and preserve them. These are kind of what these nuns are doing. And it's really cool to see that.
A unique creature, yeah.
Yeah, a unique creature. It's really cool to see that religious element being not enforced, but still very present and enforced into Star Wars. Because I've always believed that Star Wars is kind of almost a mirror of like Christianity.
Yeah,
light and the dark. You have knights, you have nuns now. You have the dark people who do selfish things, and those who follow the will of the Lord, walk in the light. Those who don't walk in the dark,
right? Stuff
like that.
What are these creatures called? Are the nuns called?
They're called the caretakers of Ahch-To. Gotcha. I don't think there's any. They're amphibious creatures, alien nuns. They're not necessarily happy that Luke is crashing on their island.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but I mean, he's a Jedi. Like, he's one of the last Jedi. Like, I don't know why they're so pissed, but...
Interesting.
Cranky nuns, I guess. Oh, here we go. The Praetorian Guard. So, one thing we're also going to get more of is Snoke. Supreme Leader Snoke. People were itching for more Snoke, played by Andy Serkis, the amazing Andy Serkis. He's still going to be a CGI character. He's not going to be a puppet like rumors had us believe, which is fine. I mean, I don't mind him being a CGI character. I just hope that the CGI is better in this than it was in The Force Awakens, because I don't think it was great in The Force Awakens. But then again, it was a hologram. We'll move past these. So yeah, images of Kylo Ren, Poe Dameron. We can go into a lot of these details.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, from just these images, I mean, it'll be really, really cool. I mean, and obviously see one last look at Carrie Fisher.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be really hard to see her sort of farewell into the Star Wars franchise.
Yeah, but yeah, how cool! I'm really excited for this. It'll be really interesting to see how much they dive into this new world of Star Wars.
Definitely. It's going to be a very different Star Wars movie, and I think that's something that we've been wanting for a long time.
Yeah.
All right, number 5. Blade Runner 2049 is rated R.
Yeah.
Of course, this is expected of the Blade Runner franchise. The first film was rated R. I believe it's rated R for violence, some sexuality, nudity, and language. I'm not a huge fan of nudity. Actually, I don't care what context or why or how you're using it. I just don't like nudity in my films. I don't think we need to see it.
Well, it'll be interesting to see. I think the thing with Blade Runner is it really delves into a deep question of what does it mean to be a human being, and uniquely more than most films. And I think most times I don't like nudity either, but I would say if they tastefully place it, and if it's having to do with the beauty of the human person or these robots that have been created, and like the question of like what does it mean to be a human being, as long as it's tasteful and it's not for a sexual fix for this movie to put that in there to get more people in the seats, as long as it's for the driving force of the story,
definitely,
and in these deep, into the deep kind of world of what Blade Runner is, I will be okay with that. But if they start playing with it as something for an over sexualized feel, that's not tasteful. It's not really driving anything in the story.
Exactly.
So, but I hope they use it well.
I mean, yeah, you make a good point with Blade Runner that sort of story kind of calls for that type of use of nudity as showing the beauty of the body and how humans and replicants are kind of the same but different. Definitely the first one had an element of that, not as prominent as in this probably, but I feel like with all the holograms that you've seen in this movie of the sexy hologram women in this movie, I feel like that we might get a hint of that, unfortunately.
Yeah,
hopefully not. But that is probably part of the culture, regardless. I mean, it's it's kind of whatever, but
Yeah. We'll just have to see. Yeah.
Yeah. Regardless, I mean, this movie is a movie for adults, and it's a movie that asks a lot of deep questions. So it is almost excused, but on a very minimum basis,
Yeah. Well, and it's cool that they've really kept this. I think they've advertised this movie well. I think they've given us everything that what Blade Runner should be for a second movie. But also they've kept it really hardly under wraps and not let stuff come out about the story.
Definitely.
I mean, and that makes me, when people do that, it makes me know that they value the story they're trying to tell, and they're trying to save that.
They want to give you a genuine experience in the theater, which, I totally respect. That's why I have mad respect for Denis Villeneuve and everybody involved in this film. It's just like they really respect the lore of this franchise and the craft of filmmaking enough to give us this genuine surprise in the theater, which is how you should experience all movies. So yeah, I'm going to be there the day or the day after it comes out because Blade Runner is my thing. We can talk about it for days. We don't have days, we have minutes. All right, so that was our top 5 running down list. That was first look at Cable in Deadpool 2, the Guardians Inferno music video from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, Disney cuts their deal with Netflix, the Star Wars The Last Jedi EW cover, and Blade Runner 2049 gets an R rating. All right. Okay, now we're on to our topic of the week. This week, obviously, JJ is here to talk about his new film which he produced. It's called Arc. And, of course, this is part 3 of the senior project discussion I had with the senior project directors here at John Paul the Great Catholic University. in addition to the producers and sometimes cinematographers. 2 weeks ago we had Miley on the show. The week before we had Gabe talk about Church Brothers and the Sensations. Now JJ's here to talk about a film he produced, along with his, well, he didn't produce it, but he made alongside his director Preston Yarger. That is Arc. So why don't you tell everybody who's tuning in like what Arc is about for those who don't know?
Yeah, so Arc is the story of a little girl who has a big journey to overcome, and it's one that's based on something that's very true for both me and Preston. Something that's very personal to us, and that's what he wrote the story on. Is in both our families we have adopted siblings, and Preston has 2 adopted sisters from China, and they he just opened up to me when we first started talking about the script about the difficulties and the challenges and that come with adopting a child, but also the difficulties that these children go through. My little brother Blake is an adopted child. He's not from a foreign country, but we dealt with a lot of similar trials that families go through when adopting a kid, and what that child goes through when they are trying to come into a family. That's something that they have never known or haven't known in a very long time. And one thing that was very that I distinctly remember about adopting Blake was soon after we had adopted him, it became very clear that he was didn't think that he had a home with us permanently. He came up to my mom and distinctly asked, where's my next home? When am I moving next? And that really struck me and has always stayed with me because he had no idea, no comprehension of what it meant to be in a home, an actual home with a family. So we adopted kind of the slogan, if you will, this is your forever home, to kind of help him with that understanding. And I just remember when he fully understood it, when she explained it to him that he wasn't going to move again, that he was going to be staying here, he just lit up and was so excited. It was very, very touching. And this story, and I know Preston had similar things happen with his sisters, and this story was really based around that struggle, really based around the child who's struggling with that. So the story about this little girl, Lily, is that she is an orphan. She doesn't really know what happened with her family. And we open up on the story of her walking through the desert, looking for a place of her own, some place that she could stay. She's a wanderer. And she comes across this creature, if you will. I don't want to spoil who he is. His name is Mike. And they strike up a relationship, and they have to cross the desert. And we soon find that she has an illness. And it's a race against time to get to the other side, to what she calls the safe place, across Babylon, where this demon is keeping everybody from moving across there, especially Lily. And Mike is pretty much the only thing that can help her. So it's really supposed to be something that can be inspiring for children going through adoption, for something that they can look up to, in a sense, that they can feel inspired by in a narrative form. And we're hoping that it can also touch other audiences with that story, because it's based in truth, even though it is in a fantasy setting in the post-apocalyptic world that we set this place in. And there's a lot of cool elements. There's so many talented people that brought this together. It looks amazing. So I'm really excited to see, and I hope that it generates a response that we wanted it to have with people and audiences. So that's kind of a brief overview of why we made Arc, what Arc is about, and what our hope is for the audiences when they watch it.
Cool. Yeah. No, really, really powerful stuff you guys are pulling on here, and just hearing that story about your brother Blake, was that right?
Yeah, Blake.
Yeah, everybody told me about that story a while ago, and great, real thing to pull from you guys, saying you want the story to feel real, that experience, And just hearing that, and I guess having seen bits of the film, no secret there, you really get that feeling. That this need for family and stuff. It's a great message to pull from, and it's a very interesting one concerning what type of film this is.
Yeah.
It's a post-apocalyptic film, definitely taking some inspiration from like
Mad
Mad
Max.
Max.
Gosh, I'm not a huge, I guess, post-apocalyptic fan, but it has an interesting aesthetic to it. It has an interesting setting. It has things that you can play with a lot more because you're in a desperate environment, if you will, and that is kind of what these kids are in. I mean, to them, it's a life and death situation because they don't understand the world. They don't have an understanding of where they're at. Everything's scary to them, and that really, it's hard. It's a hard struggle for them. I could never imagine growing up without a family or understanding what that is and being thrown into a situation. So I think that was something that that we really were able to continually go back to and continually try to fight for in this story, was to have that come through. And I think it was an interesting to play with, kind of almost that polar opposite look, if you will, with a child and the dangerous look of post-apocalyptic world that she's in.
Mm-hmm.
It's just kind of crushing, and it's dangerous, but yet it's delicate. And so we're pulling from a lot of different things, trying to make it a cohesive movie that is powerful emotionally.
Yeah, you definitely get like even some, I'll say, hints of like Rey from Star Wars in there. Just this drifter who scavenger who just is trying to survive. And I really enjoy. On another note, I love the color palette you guys chose. I mean, Mad Max is definitely a movie that has its colorful moments, but it's the palette doesn't have a very wide variety.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas this, definitely you see like Lily has this very vibrant green dress on, even though it's covered in dirt or whatever. You still have these great, vibrant. Set pieces and costume elements, and that really makes it stand out, I think, visually, and really makes it visually pleasing, I think.
Yeah, and it was to play with that was she's supposed to signify kind of a life in the middle of this desert oasis.
That's good.
She's the vibrancy of the story. You'll see when you see the character Mike, he's got very dull colors. He's very intriguing, very cool looking, but she pops when you see her eyes, her dress, her colors, what she wears, how she acts. Is a very lively person, to kind of symbolize the liveliness of youth and the wear and tear that the world can take on kids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. On Mike for a second, just consider the type of color palette he has, the things he wears. It's interesting considering who he is. And once again, we won't get into spoiler territory, but being friends with the producer of a big movie like this, you get to know things that other people don't get to know until the movie comes out. But having seen that, it's interesting the character he actually is, and what you perceive him to be.
Yeah.
And I'm really interested to see how people do react to that. I think it's a really cool and interesting take on a character like this.
And he was really important because, with Lily, all the deep things that from personal life that we were kind of pulling for the story, Mike really represented a lot of things that are also important to us, but not necessarily completely on a personal level. And what I mean by that is that he really represents a side of the film that really delves into the Old Testament. We like to pull a lot of Old Testament themes that are in it. Definitely can't feel like it's necessarily like a Christian movie when you're watching it, but there's a lot of symbolisms that we pull. I don't want to dive into any spoiler territory, but I'll just say that he represents a lot of deep things in that sense. Symbolic imagery is used a lot with him, and that his actions. So
it's a great little cliffhanger teaser to leave them with.
Yeah.
Let's talk about casting, because obviously we talked about Lily. The actress you guys got to play Lily was pretty phenomenal. And then I guess we'll get into how you ended up unintentionally casting Mike
Yeah.
later on. But let's talk about Kat, because she was the only one you really casted, right?
Yeah, I mean, we were in this film. There was mainly a lot of extras, a lot of fill-in actors for different things. There was really only two main characters, which are Mike and Lily. Lily, we knew, had to be a very talented young lady, and we wanted the youngest we could find. We were aiming for someone that could pull off 6 to 12 years old, relatively. And we found Lily Laney Rhodes. And she's a very talented actress. She's really skyrocketing on IMDb star meter. She's been in a couple of big things. She's been in a couple of features. She's very talented little girl. And she really brought a strong presence to the audition. And we just knew that she was what we wanted to play this role. And on set, I mean, she was such a trooper. I mean, we were filming in the same locations as Star Wars in the dunes and the desert. It was very hot, so much sand and dry. And she was just such a trooper. I mean, she beat me most of the time with how vibrant she was after a long day of shooting. She was a great positive aspect to have on set. She was just phenomenal, and she really gave it her all. And I was really pleased with who she was and what she was able to do with this character. She really did carry the film. So she was a great choice for us. With Mike, there's an interesting story with Mike.
yeah.
A long story with Mike. So Mike originally, and as some of you may know if you followed the ARC film from its beginning stages, that Mike originally was supposed to be this large, life-size, 8-foot robotic machine, and we had planned it very much in detail in pre-production for what this robot would be. We had even brought in people from Hollywood that had worked on the Marvel films. We had people from Captain America, that had worked on some things from with Iron Man, Pacific Rim. He, particularly the one person we were getting advice from, he worked very closely with our art department. But as things do in films, particularly short films with low budgets, we ran into some very large issues as we draw closer to filming. In fact, the day of filming, everything that we had built with the robot just started falling apart, and the art team had a very difficult time pulling together. So it really just came down to a call that we were not going to be able to use this robot, which was a huge, huge bummer. But I was very proud of my team for pivoting very fast. Preston Yarger pivoted very fast with his vision of the film to make it work. So it was kind of a huddle moment for the art team to come together and to come up with a solution, since we didn't have this robot that we wanted. And we came up with this character that you'll now see in the film, Mike. I don't want to reveal what you end up seeing him as at the end of the film, but I'll just say that he's a very interesting character that you can't quite figure out at first what he is. And he kind of carries this very powerful presence and very intriguing to Lily as in the film, and she bonds with him very quickly. So it kind of still carried a lot of what we wanted in the film originally with the robot before everything with that fell apart. So I'm very pleased with what we were able to do with his character, especially with the time frame we were working with and everything that went wrong. It was a great learning experience for myself and for many people on the film. So I hope that it carries that same emotion and power that we wanted it to have.
Yeah, I mean, an upset like that on a set is definitely probably one of the most unprecedented things to happen. I mean, obviously you expect things to go wrong, but I doubt that was the first thing in anyone's mind when filming the first day. But no, it's really cool to see how it all came together, even with that major setback. How much did the script change on set, given that the robot was no longer part of the film?
Actually, surprisingly, relatively small with what had happened. We did have to change everything in the script that had to do with talking about Mike as a robotic machine. There was one scene in particular, actually, a scene that I was going to act in, had to be cut because it had to do with explaining who Mike, the original Mike as the robot, was through the mechanic who was working on him, through their eyes. And so that scene completely needed to be cut from the film. We had a couple other, I guess, dialogue scenes that needed to be cut. But we had to pivot really quickly to this new character to try to create a backstory for him, why he was there, why the audience is going to care. And it was very quickly done, and but I felt like it was what we were able to accomplish worked out very well. So I would say relatively small for everything that went wrong that we had to change in the script. It's still very much what it was supposed to be originally.
Cool. Very cool. Yeah, I mean, just seeing some of the locations you guys got on set, I mean, these are some gorgeous locations, and some that you don't get in your average, like say where we are, Escondido. These locations aren't easy to come by. No. So what was the process of finding all these desolate and post-apocalyptic locations?
It was Preston, the director, and the art department had worked on other films in various locations that we did use prior to this film. So there was many that we had already had in mind when we first started filming, and there was a few that we went and looked at. They were probably, as far as our distance from them, from where we're at, they were probably a good 2 hours away on average. So it was a little bit of a drive, a little bit of coordinating. But a lot of them actually were in state park areas or underneath the protection of the state, like state parks. So there was a lot of hoops to jump through as far as paperwork, permits, insurance, all those kinds of things that go into pre-production for getting them, that were huge pain to get through. So much paperwork. But in the end, I mean, it looks really great. I mean, the people that we worked with to get the locations were very pleasing to work with. Slow, but difficult to in that regard, but very nice to work with as far as getting this done. So there's a lot of just pre-production work that had to go into it, kind of thinking ahead of time, thinking of how many vehicles and all that boring producer stuff. But I was very pleased with the location. That's probably one of the strongest points of this film, is the visual look of the locations and the world that it builds. Very, very happy with that.
Yeah, that is why I don't want to be a producer, because he said it best, boring producer work. No, but I believe the job has its pros in addition to its cons, but definitely takes a specific type of person to take on that duty, so I commend you. Take some crazy people, so I commend you for being as crazy as you are. And of course you had, how can we forget, you had some practice, of course, with Anna, which was a much different story, but you had a lot of the same people on set for that, more or less. At least Preston was a big creative voice on Anna. You were head producer, Shelby Turner, director of that. That was a very different film. How do you think, if at all, how did that film prepare you for something as big, if not bigger, like this?
Yeah, I think what helped was that in pre-production, we actually were ahead of the game a lot of the time, especially with something that was like so difficult as a production like this. And I think the scale of it was very similar, completely different types of films, but as far as the manpower that was needed, the cast that was needed, locations that were needed. I was very nervous on Anna because it was the largest production I had tried to tackle since then.
It's also a very personal project.
A very personal project. So it was it had its own difficulties, but it really did prepare me for this and dealing with just everything that entails with putting on a large production. So I learned a lot from Anna to be able to pull into making ARC work. And I had the big thing I learned was bringing on the right people, and I had so many helpful producers that helped bring this together, that helped me at least get some sleep during production and stuff. They were hugely helpful. I mean, I had Mary Flynn, I had Megan Woodard, I had Caitlin Slater, I had Tom
Zupasic.
Yeah, that guy. Gosh, who else? I had a lot of producers on this working, and Jenna Christakis, yes. So it was, I was able to learn that I needed a lot more help then, and it wasn't just something that I could tackle. It was something that a lot of people needed to help me with and help bring together and make their own. And that was constantly something that we were trying to do, was to help people feel like this was their movie as well, and try to get them behind the mission of the film. So I'm very pleased with my team. I wouldn't have this film or anything close to it if it was just me. So the only reason it looks so good and makes me look good is because of them. So so it's really not me, guys, at all.
Yeah, no, I can attest to Megan Woodard's work ethic. She was one of my head producers on Windfall Rising as well. She, in addition to another producer on Windfall, they are my rock. They help me get through meetings and schedule things I would not think about. They keep me in line, keep me in check in regards to the production. Producers are definitely the thing that keep the directors working and able to do the things they love. So, to, of course, you and all the producers out there, you are appreciated.
Yes.
And shout out to Megan, of course, because she's great at her job. So now you guys are in post, and how is that going?
With post with ARC, that's right.
With ARC, yeah. Sorry, that's the only movie we're talking about.
Yes.
So
I there is.
I think Anna wrapped on post a while ago.
Unless you're talking about all the other ones.
Yeah,
but
JJ's a very busy man.
With ARC, it's a difficult process. You're dealing with something that is very complicated. There's a lot to it. In addition to, it's a constant battle between story and visualization, especially with something like this. You have so many things that are visually pleasing, but it's the decisions that come into, is it aiding the story? And there's a lot of hard sacrifices that have to happen with how it's aiding the story. It's getting it's getting close, and it's been a long quarter as far as editing and notes and going back and forth with teams to decide on what's the best decisions to make. We're wrapping in, gosh, we have 3 more weeks left? Is that what we have?
3 more weeks, as of today.
Oh gosh. So it's getting close, and but we're going to be ready. The team that they have for editing on ARC is just phenomenal. So thankful for these guys that work really, really hard and are so talented with their editing abilities, special effects, sound. All 9 yards there. Very blessed in that regard. So we're hoping that we can bring together, the movie that's supposed to be brought. That it can have an impact on audiences.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
So let's talk about you real quick. Having produced 2 big senior projects, and now sort of producing a lot more than just senior projects nowadays, what is your work ethic like as a producer? I guess, most people have like a staple way they work, or they go after specific types of projects. In addition to your ethic, what type of projects as a producer do you look at? And what do you look at in a project that makes you think, I want to be part of that, I want to make that happen?
A big seller for me when I'm producing a film is it based in reality? And I don't mean reality as like, is it a fiction or is it a fantasy? No, I mean like the reality of the story that you're telling and the human experience that it's presenting. With films, my job as a filmmaker and as an artist is to bring forth scripts and teams that are going to present the reality of a human person and their experience to life in whatever way that is, and hopefully in a moral sense with a moral message. But it's not about being pushy. It's about, my main concern is to present reality, and I know because of what God created us to be that a message will come through that reality. And people come from so many different places, and it gets difficult. I mean, there's a lot of places where it's difficult to decide. I don't like to use the word gray or the term gray area because I can't remember who said it, but there's never a gray area. There's just a lot of places with really tiny checkers of black and white.
Interesting.
So it's kind of making those decisions. That decision is the first thing that I do when I approach a film is this based in a reality? Is this have a message that's important to me, but also to an audience? And is there a team that I can pull around this film that's going to care, that's going to be passionate about it, that they can make their own, so that we can have a positive experience on set and a positive message to present to people. I draw a lot of inspiration from a lot of filmmakers in the industry: Denzel Washington, Jim Caviezel, Mel Gibson, and
has Caviezel directed anything yet?
I don't think Caviezel's directed anything yet, as far as his acting abilities and his his way of portraying reality in that way.
Right.
I think Denzel once said, dreams are dreams, but when you're creating a film, and hard work is made out of, when you're creating a film, it's hard work and consistency. Your results are going to be based on hard work and consistency.
Yeah, I remember this.
And treating people well. And another thing, I remember watching him this last Oscar season when he said they were asking him about like all these different things about film. They were going really deep into it, and he just stopped them and he said, "This is a privilege that we get to make films. Losing your son in Afghanistan's hard. Making films isn't hard; it's a privilege." Now, don't get me wrong; it's hard work. It's a lot of hard work, but we have this interesting calling, I'd say, in the film industry because we're artists. Our canvas is not as straightforward, perhaps at times, as a white canvas. It's dealing with the human experience of what it means for us to live on a daily basis. And so that's kind of the next thing that I kind of dwell from, is trying to find inspiration for things. And I find a lot of inspiration from the people that I do films with. I look for teams that are that they're passionate themselves. I mean, if they're not going to be passionate with themselves and what they want to do and be a good person, then they're not going to be passionate about the art that they're making. So I really look for teams that are going to work well together. That, and it's not something like, oh, I think I'll work well with this person. Like, there might be people that I completely disagree with that'll bring something very interesting to a film set. And, the impact that I get to make as a filmmaker, and that anybody gets to make as a filmmaker, particularly a Christian filmmaker, is the shoulders you're brushing with, on a set, the people you're talking with. That, because when you're on a film set, I mean, you really get to see really who you are as a person, because there's a lot of frustrating situations that come up. There's a lot of fun things, but a lot of bad things, that come with it. Like in any job, but particularly there's things that really bring out what you are at your core. And I want to be a positive impact for people that I work with. And I'm sure it's the same for you, Vince. You want to make an impact. You want to, and that's how you evangelize, and that's how you bring a message of inspiration and hope, and a Christian example or a bad example. That happens a lot too. Hope that minor to a minimum. And I try to push myself constantly and put myself with people that are going to challenge me. I think that's a huge thing for people, to find people that they can be challenged by and look up to and aspire to. It's like, what's his name? Well, never mind. I can't remember his name. But it's who you're chasing. It's
I'm trying to help you.
Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah.
It's who you look up to. It's who you're chasing, and you're chasing, who you could be, who's better, your better self. So I guess that's my rant and my pleasure about being a producer, and it's just seeing these brilliant people bring these brilliant pieces of art together, and I'm a small fraction of that. I just help bring them together, help give them the things that they need to best present their art, and to try to bring messages to people. So it's really rewarding. I like to think of it as somewhat a servitude to serve my team and to help serve people that need to be reminded of who they are, how good they can be, and show that they're not the only people going through what they're going through in their stories. So, yeah, I'd say that's somewhat of what I love to be a producer for.
I'll say, that goes quite a lot. I think it's a great note to close this conversation on. One more thing I want to ask is, I know what you're working on next. Couple of things. We're probably going to do some things together in the future.
Yes.
But for those of you who don't know, what are you going to be up to with the next couple after ARC? What's next for you?
After ARC, I am working on a film called Sunsets that's just about to go into post-production. That was done with some very talented filmmakers about loss, about someone losing someone very close to them and dealing with that grief. I'm making another film, actually not a film, a TV pilot that I'm working to be able to make, to pitch to some bigger studios, put through some festival circuits. It's untitled at this point, but it dives really deep, really into some gritty stuff, and to undercover cops, and some really grungy situations, and them having to deal with really complicated moral questions in that line of work as a police officer, and also the people that are in crime, like how empathizing with some of their struggles and how a lot of times you get trapped and it's not always your choice. So I can't give too much because don't want to reveal too much about what that series is going to be about, but it's going to be really interesting. I'm really excited to be producing that. Gosh, what else? I got some other films I'm acting in coming out. I don't know their names. I can't give any information about them, but they're going to be cool. So check out my page, I guess. So I'm busy, but I love being busy.
Yeah. But no, look, I think ARC is going to be a visual spectacle. I think once you guys get the chance to see it, if you haven't seen what the trailer's already, it looks gorgeous. There's really this great sense of, you get hints of Logan, the Wolverine movie. You get Mad Max. You get a little bit of Star Wars in there. I think it's going to be a very fun and visually pleasing movie. I think you all should be looking forward to it. And I congratulate director Preston Yarger and JJ Schindler on the great work they've done on the movie.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me, Vince.
Yeah.
And hope that we can do this again.
Absolutely. I mean, as I've been telling the past couple guests, this is probably the last time for a while that I'm going to have people that I've had on the podcast, but only for a little bit, only because,
things,
yeah, I mean, the only hindrance is that I'm going to be going back to Nebraska for about 3 or 4 months, and JJ's obviously going to be taking his own path, but we're going to be back. The gang's going to be back together in about 3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
If we can find a place of living. Help us.
Yes.
All right. Well, before we go, I want to make a quick shout out. So one of my old friends, Nick Crone, contacted me the day he got married a couple weeks ago. Wishing him congratulations on that. Well, actually, no, a couple months ago, not weeks. But he just came out with a new book, which is a dream he's had for a while. Wanted to write books. The first book, it's called, I hope I'm not butchering this name, Schofield. It's about a young German boy named Henry who arrives in America and is on the brink of falling into the Great Depression. When facing persecution for his nationality, he learns the true meaning of trusting God, especially when running into a young man by the name of Schofield, who is simply struggling to make ends meet and raise his sister. With both families destitute, they pull together with hopes of helping each other get by. So,
Nice.
Yeah, his name is Nicholas M. Crone. Cover artwork was designed by his wife, Marissa R. Crone. So yeah, please, I'll put the link in the description of this video. Support my friend Nick and his new book. Congratulations to you, Nick.
Congrats.
Yeah. And yeah, that's our show. Thank you all for watching this episode of the Vince Salerno podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hit that like button and subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can check out my short films, trailer reactions, and more episodes of the Vince Salerno podcast. JJ, as always, thanks for being on the show.
Of course.
Third time, episode 25.
25.
All past a year doing this podcast and showing no signs of slowing down. Where can the people find you, follow your work online?
Well, if you Google me, JJ Schindler, I'm one of the only names in the United States that goes by that. So if you can't find me there, look me up on Facebook at JJ Schindler. You can find me on Instagram. I'm on Twitter a little bit, mostly on Instagram. I'm on Snapchat as JJ is the Cap, you know. So yeah, look me up, follow me, and hopefully we'll see with you, chat with you soon.
He's got a Bitmoji.
I do have a Bitmoji of me.
Is it a Bmoji or is it Bitmoji?
I don't know.
I'm new to this whole thing, so I honestly don't know.
Young kids doing these
What are these ripper-snappers making them Bitmojis? And actually, no, wait, I have the app right here. Oh, it's Bitmoji. You're right.
Bitmoji. Ha!
Bmoji, emoji.
Technologically inclined.
All the emojis, get them while they're hot.
There you go.
Gonna be hot for a while. All right. Thank you all for watching. Have a great day, week. God bless, and peace out.